I've done the 12-week year 2 times already, and I have completed literally like 80 to 90% of every goal that I set when doing a 12-week year. Your emotional connection to these goals needing to be strong if you really want to succeed with them. Hey y'all, so today we are going to be going through the full process of the 12-week year method. Granted, there are some things that I'm not going to be using from the 12-week year method, and those things I will not speak on, but I will speak on the things that I have used in the past and the things that I'm going to use now to set some new goals. So I'm getting this method right out of 12-week year, and let me show y'all that I actually read this, because y'all know me. Y'all know I like to show my proof. Hold on. We got up in there. And y'all always say, if you want to do the 12-week year, do I think that you need to actually have the book? You don't actually need to have it, but I do think that you are much more likely to be successful in your 12-week year if you do have the book. Because while I'm showing y'all how to do the process, there is definitely a lot of things up in the book that will help you along your journey. Now, I am going to be doing 8 weeks instead of 12 weeks because we're already a month into the quarter. And instead of saying, oh, I'm just waiting until next quarter to, do my new goals, I'm gonna go ahead and start now. And in order to kind of offset the fact that it's only 8 weeks, I won't be doing as many goals this time as I would do if I was doing the full 12 weeks because I don't want to overwhelm myself. So next quarter, when July begins, I'll start a new 12-week year and actually do the 12 weeks. So that it'll be July, August, and September. And then the last quarter after that will be October, November, and December. I'm going to be using my own goals as the example for how to use this method and how to make it the most effective. So let's go ahead and get into it. If you're new to my channel, my name is Destiny. I talk about all things self-growth here. So if that's something that you're into, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Okay, yeah, so the first thing that you want to do is figure out what your aspirational vision is. And when we say aspirational vision, I'm saying aspirational, or the book is then aspirational, because this is where you want to be as audacious as you possibly can. Sky is the limit when you think about this vision, when you think about the things that may seem too out of reach, when you think about the things that other people may call unrealistic. This is where you put your wildest dreams and vision for your life, because at the end of the day, anything that you want is attainable. Okay, sky really is the limit. And so I definitely feel like the 12-week year is really encouraging us to not limit ourselves and figure out a real way to get to where we genuinely want to be in life. So yeah, your aspirational vision, your long-term vision for your life, the full vision. And then after you figure that part out, then you want to do your 3-year vision. And so basically this is gonna, come from your aspirational vision. Ultimately, this is what I want my life to look like. What do my next 3 years need to look like for me to get closer to that? And with this part, you really want to be as descriptive as possible when you get into your 3-year vision. Like, what are the things that you want to have done in the next 3 years? And I feel like this is perfect for me because y'all know I just turned 26. So I really do have like some goals that I want to hit by the time I turn 30. And so I feel like this is really gonna help me figure that out. And then the next thing is gonna be the 12-week year goals. Now this is where we get into the nitty-gritty and using what they have in the book. So I'm gonna put a picture of like the actual table that they use, maybe like over here somewhere. And this is like what the actual table looks like. Now granted, in my example, I don't have the actual table. I just have like bullet points for mine. You can do yours however you want to do yours. It's totally up to you. I just didn't feel like building that all out, and I did not write it on paper this time. I did it electronically. So yeah, we're gonna get right into it. After you've created what your next 3 years need to look like, you need to be setting goals that align with that vision. Y'all, because I am on the journey, my ultimate goal in doing this 12-week year is to get closer to knowing who I am, to figuring out who I am at 26. Y'all know I'm on this journey to figuring out who I am now that I've turned 26 years old. And so one thing that I really want to do is declutter my home to make space for new things in my life, right? First things first is to get rid of the things that represent who I am not. I'm figuring out who I am, so I need to go ahead and get rid of who I am not and make space for who I am. My first goal, declutter my home to make space for new things. And y'all, that's gonna be decluttering my desks. And I also got like little bullet points underneath those that will like help me achieve that task or do that tactic. So I need to buy organizers for my desk in order to declutter it. I need to declutter my kitchen. Some of these things I actually will like do a video on and take y'all along the journey with me decluttering. And then declutter my closet. Y'all, I gotta get rid of so much stuff. My wardrobe does not represent who I am today. One thing that I will say about the 12-week year, I don't have this on this example, but he has like a due date, which is basically like how often you have to do something or when this specific task needs to be done, or tactic, as he says. And so for instance, I need to declutter my desk by the end of this 8-week year. So yeah, y'all, that is my goal number 1, which is going to bring me closer to transforming my life to reflect more who I am today. And then my tactic number 2 is going to be to read one book and apply the principles to my life. Now, yeah, one of the main problems that I had and how I ended up, I don't want to say losing myself, but kind of realizing like that my environment does not reflect who I am today, is that I would consume all of this personal development content, and I was growing at such a substantial rate that I could not upgrade my environment or update my environment as quickly as my mind was starting to, transform. So now I want to make sure that when I consume my personal development content, that I'm taking my time with it, that I'm applying the principles slowly and making sure that they reflect inside and outside if I want to apply them to my life, and not just jumping from content to content to content to content to where now I'm like at this phase where like, dang, like all of the stuff around me, this is not me. Like, this is not me. So yeah, y'all. And the tactics, of course, is read one book and apply the principles to my life. So read the book during the first 4 weeks. Pause between chapters to reflect, make an application plan after I finish the book, create an action plan to apply the principles I create from the book, and practice applying the principles in the last 6 weeks. I guess I kind of didn't think about the fact that I wasn't doing a full 12 weeks at this time, so I'm actually going to shift this timeline a little bit. You want to make sure that your tactics have a timeline and a deadline for when they need to be done, so that you can actually complete what you need to complete by the time you finish. You don't just throw the tactics on there and don't know how often you need to do it. And then tactic number 3 is going to be try at least one new thing a week. This is more of like a self-discovery kind of tactic, because I'm trying to get closer to figuring out who I am. And honestly, the only tactic there is to plan something to do every week and to commit to doing that thing once a week, and which is ultimately me just committing to a me day, a day for me where I do something that I've never done before. There are some questions that the book says that you should ask yourself before you plan, and one is, what will you struggle with? Now, for me personally, I am going to struggle with procrastination when it comes to decluttering. I'm also dreading letting a lot of that stuff go. That's one thing about me, is that I like to hoard, or like when I see something, I say, oh, I can repurpose that, or oh, I have a sewing machine, I could just make something good out of that, or oh, I can do this, oh, I could just to find a way for me to not have to let that thing go. And I really need to get better at letting things go. Then you want to ask yourself, well, what will you do to overcome those struggles? I need to just have my why in my face all the time when it comes to the procrastination. Like, well, why do you want to get rid of this stuff? Why? Like, remember what you're trying to do here, and also remember that you are making space for new things in your life. Remember that these things do not reflect who you are today. And then, of course, some tips, y'all. Some tips when you're doing this 12-week year is to keep it simple. Keep it simple. Do not overcomplicate nothing. As you can see, this stuff is very straightforward. You set a goal. What are the tactics that you need to do? Let's say you want to lose 10 to 15 pounds. Your tactics may be work out at least 3 times a week, stay in a calorie deficit 5 days out of the week, walk, get at least 10,000 steps a day, and then your timeline or your due date for that stuff. So if it's 3 times a week, then you need to have done that thing 3 times a week by Sunday. That's your due date. If it is stay in a calorie deficit every day, your due date is every single day. And those are the tactics that you want to complete to get to that ultimate goal. Now, tip number 2 is going to be, make sure your 12-week year plan aligns with your 3-year vision. Apparently in the book, this is a pitfall that people typically tend to have, is that like they set these goals and it has nothing to do with what they even got going on or what they hope to have in the future, and it's really just throwing them off track, and they're dedicating so much time to something that's not going to push them closer to where they want to be. And then number 3 is going to be, make it meaningful. Your emotional connection to these goals needing to be strong if you really want to succeed with them. So have your why in your face all the time. Make sure that you are able to remind yourself when you're low or when you don't feel like doing something, why you are doing that something in the first place, and make sure that it is strong, okay? That your emotional connection is strong. And that's really what's gonna pull you through. And then number 4, of course, is stay focused. It's very hard to stay focused. And I feel like even before, like with the making it meaningful, that's what's also gonna help you focus. Okay, y'all, and one thing that I really love about the 12-week year method is that it does give you a real way for you to determine how successful that you are actually being during this 12-week year. It literally gives you a way to calculate your productivity score so that you can see how well you're actually doing. And I feel like this is really good because it's a way for you to face reality, a way for you to really keep yourself accountable. Every single week, as you have your tactics and your tasks that you have to do, obviously, you should be planning out your day to make sure that you get these things done. So when you want to figure out what your productivity score is, you want to divide all of the tasks that you've completed that week and divide it by all the tasks that you planned that week. And you want to divide all the tasks completed by the tasks that were planned. And that will give you your weekly productivity score. You don't have to use this, but when you do use this, I will say it will encourage you to want to do better and better and better and better. Like, you will feel so good when you see that score getting higher and higher and higher and higher. And quite frankly, you know, if you feel kind of down because your score is kind of low, maybe you needed that little kick in the butt to bring you back to reality. Like, okay, I have not been doing as well as I thought I have, or okay, I could be doing better. And this is just going to help you get better. It is only going to help you hold yourself accountable and figure out where you're lacking, which tasks you haven't actually been completing. Maybe you need to tweak them. Maybe you need to change them completely. And that's okay. But this is gonna help you actually have a successful 12-week year when you use your productivity score and you really track yourself. This is how you keep track of what it is that you are doing. So like I said, you ain't gotta use it, but I do highly recommend. I do highly recommend. Get the book if you're thinking about doing this. Read it. I mean, you ain't got to, but I'm telling you that you should. All right, y'all, so y'all seen my goals. Y'all see what I'm gonna be doing, and I will be sharing a lot of what I will be doing during my 8-week, 12-week year. And then if y'all want me to do another video for the next 12 weeks so that we can all get on track together, which I would love, then y'all let me know down in the comments. I will definitely do this again, and we can run through this again together. And y'all want like a template to do like a 12-week year, I would love to make one for y'all. Just let me know down in the comments. But obviously, I ain't gonna do nothing that y'all don't need or that y'all don't want. So y'all do gotta let me know. But I will create a template for y'all. We can run this back right at the end of June to get geared up for the end of July and get our quarterly goals on track. Thank y'all so much for watching. Of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me, and it's free. Don't forget that it's free. All right, y'all. I'll catch you in the next one.